it's Fit DJ here with Chris Bell, and today we're going to talk about the carnivore diet, which is something that he's been doing for about 3-4 months now, and he's had a lot of interesting results, some really good results actually. So I'm going to ask you some questions, Chris, about the carnivore diet, and I'm sure that other people are going to want to know these things too.
Fire away, Lauren, Fit DJ.
So what exactly is a carnivore diet for people that don't know?
Carnivore diet is pretty simple. A carnivore diet just consists of all meat. It could be any kind of meat. It could be any kind of animal protein. So carnivore diet consists of, for me, mainly beef, but you could have chicken, but you need to have fat. That's the thing, is you need fat with this meat. So if you're going to have chicken, it'd be the fattier chicken, like chicken thighs. You could have pork. You could have fish. You know, those are all fine choices. For me, though, really it's about red meat and water. Steak on a plate is sort of the way that I go about the carnivore diet for the most part.
How did you find out about the diet in the first place?
So I found out about the diet about 20-something years ago from my friend Ron Fedko, who back then it wasn't called a carnivore diet. It didn't have a name. Basically, I was getting ready for a powerlifting competition, and he told me that I was too fat and I needed to lose weight. And so he put me on a diet of red meat and water. And I remember it pretty vividly because we were in Gold's Gym in Venice, and I was training with Mike O'Hearn, and he said to me, you gotta get on this diet, and I'm gonna get you a plan. And I was all excited, so I went and got a piece of paper and a pen to write down what he was gonna tell me. And basically, what he told me was red meat and water. It was a couple words, and that was the diet. Yeah, and it kind of is the diet. And right now, as much as I put about it on Instagram or post about it, people still want to know, like, can I have this? Can I have that? And the answer is no, you really can't. I mean, the diet is meat and water. Anything outside of that, you're drifting away from the carnivore diet. Do I have stuff that's on the carnivore diet? Yes, I do tend to have some things that are off the carnivore diet, which we'll get into, but I don't think that's strict adherence to the carnivore diet. I think the carnivore diet really is just meat and water.
Yeah. What inspired you to revisit this diet?
What inspired me to revisit the diet was watching Joe Rogan's podcast and Dr. Sean Baker. And my friend Brent, who's a training partner of mine, actually came to me in the gym and said, have you heard this crazy guy that's on Joe Rogan? He's talking about eating an all-meat diet. And I said, well, that's not so crazy. That's something I did back when I was powerlifting. I know that it works and it's effective. Why is that so crazy? And he's like, this guy was just saying, like, he doesn't even eat vegetables. And that sort of piqued my interest, because I was like, I don't want to eat vegetables. I don't really like vegetables. I don't necessarily like the way that they make me feel. Another weird thing is that my teeth are kind of sensitive from eating so much rotten candy over the years that I have issues with things that are cold. So eating a lot of vegetables that are like cold and fruits that are cold actually hurt my teeth. I don't like it. So now I don't have to eat it. So it's okay with me. I'm fine with it.
Yeah. So how long have you been doing this?
I've been doing it right now for 3 months. I'm just starting out in the 4th month. I started like January 1st, basically right around the new year I started. And I wanted to do something more radical, something a little bit different than the regular ketogenic diet as I had been doing, but I had stopped having progress on the ketogenic diet. And I wanted to try to find something that would help with my joint pain a little bit more, something that would help reduce inflammation a little bit more. And while on a ketogenic diet, I went and I got my blood tested, and my C-reactive protein was through the roof. It was it's off the charts, like unreadable, so high. And I actually got a letter with it, because that's very serious, and it says you need to go see your doctor right away. There's something wrong. Now, I don't know what was wrong. The inflammation that didn't get figured out, but on my second blood test, my C-reactive protein dropped from like 9 point something down to 3 point something, down to now below 1. So the C-reactive protein has come way down to where it's in a safe, in the safe realm. Inflammation has come down. My pain levels have come down. I'm lifting more, and I'm lifting way more weight than I ever have. So before I ever went on the carnivore diet, I was afraid to push the limits in how much I could deadlift, for example. And so I would only go up to a maximum of 3 plates, like 315. I have 2 fake hips. I don't want to go any heavier than 315. Well, last week I loaded up to 305, or 405, and did 3 sets of 5 with 405, and it was easy. And this week coming up, I'm going to even try to go a little bit heavier because I just feel a lot stronger eating steak all day.
That is awesome. And let's talk about your physical results, because your body has transformed tremendously over the past 2 years. And I feel like when you started the carnivore diet, that's when it took things to even more of an awesome level with, like, you know, your physique and like looking ripped. Like, I mean, you look awesome. So let's talk about.
I don't think I'm ripped yet, but I'm sort of getting there.
Get the guns.
I'm getting close, you know. But what I realize, the people that are ripped out there, God bless you. And second of all, it's hard and it takes a long time. And you know, either you're genetically gifted to where that just comes easy. For some people, it does. For some people, it comes with a little bit of work, and for some people, it comes with a real lot of work. You know, and it all depends on where we start. Where we're going to finish you know, it also depends on where we start. If we started off very overweight and obese, you know, and we get down to a point where we can see our abs, that's pretty good. Like, that's good enough, you know what I mean? So, and if you're just kind of smooth and then you get shredded, that's kind of enough. Like, it's not about making the biggest difference. It's about making a noticeable difference, a sizable difference. And when you make these noticeable differences, the one thing that we do know for a fact is that everybody that loses weight improves their health markers, and that's important. So no matter how they do it, by losing weight, you're going to improve all your health markers in your blood work.
Yeah, absolutely. Is this something that is cyclical for you, or do you do this strictly? I mean, do you have days when you go off the carnivore diet where you eat more vegetables or incorporate more carbs?
I don't really incorporate, it's not that I really incorporate vegetables, but what I do incorporate is fruit. I believe that fruit is okay on this carnivore diet, and I have a weird reason for it, but you know, I think that fruit is made to be eaten. Fruit grows to a certain size. It then turns a different color and it falls off the tree. I think that we're supposed to eat it. I think it's there for us or other animals to possibly consume. It's full of micronutrients. It's full of fiber. It's full of all these other things. So when I eat a steak and I eat an apple afterwards, I actually feel a lot better. What that apple does, actually, what's weird is a lot of times you would think that you would eat a steak, right? And because a steak has protein, it's going to increase your insulin levels no matter what. But when you eat an apple with it, a lot of times the fructose will actually drive blood glucose down. So it drives it downwards rather than driving it up. Mm-hmm. So sometimes when you eat an apple, when you're trying to digest meat, that's actually going to help you to process the meat, to digest it, to move it through your system, and the fiber is going to help you poop it out, which is always like everybody's number one concern is, am I constipated? And the answer is no. And one of the reasons why it's no, I think, is because I do eat an apple a day, or I maybe have a carrot a day, or, you know, I'll have one thing that's not animal protein per day. That's usually like an apple, a carrot, an orange, you know, just one of them. Like, that's fine. That's all you probably need. And just to make everybody rest assured, if they want to do this diet, I've had up to like 6 pieces of fruit in one day and been completely fine. But just so everybody knows, when I first started eating fruit, I also got very sick and ended up going to the ER because I ate so much fruit that it killed my stomach. And I didn't do it on purpose. I didn't try to do it, but I basically ate probably about 3 pieces of fruit in a row. And that was enough. You know, my stomach's very sensitive, and that was enough to send me reeling for hours, you know. Just sort of blew up my stomach. So people need to watch out with eating all these fruits and vegetables. It's not as healthy as we think. Like, you had SIBO from eating too many vegetables. I've had SIBO from raw veggies, from eating the skins and the seeds in the vegetables, and ended up in the ER myself, and I didn't know what was wrong with me, and then discovered I had SIBO. See, there's you and me putting ourselves in the emergency room, eating natural, healthy things. Whereas when we used to go to Cheesecake Factory, we didn't end up in the ER. We probably should have. Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. These lectins, man. Stay away from those lectins. So also I wanted to ask you, you know, you love to go to the movies. Obviously, you're a filmmaker. And I know that you like to snack when you go to the movies. Yeah. Who doesn't? What do you eat now? Okay. So actually, I just went to the movies last night. Saw Blockers with John Cena. Very funny. And I ate an MCT bar and some Pilly Nuts. So MCT bar, yeah, definitely not on the program. But you know what? MCT bars, they don't have any artificial sweeteners in them, which I like. They're a new product. They're good. You know, they're tasty. The other thing is that if I'm going to eat something in the movies, I want to make sure that I'm not doing any damage to myself. So it's definitely, you know, something I've looked at the label and decided that, like, that's what I was going to eat and it wasn't going to do that much damage, and it didn't. And then Peely nuts are nuts that are like really high in fat, really low in carbs. I actually ate 2 MCT bars during the movie and some Peely nuts. And I don't think that things like that are bad. And when you're in a situation where you're like, I need to watch, you know, I need to get through this movie and I need, like, not like it's a hard thing to do. Yeah, it's fun. It's like, it's part of something I enjoy, and I don't enjoy movies if I'm not eating. So like I need to be eating something. So the other option is like, just don't eat anything. And I just don't recommend that because then I don't enjoy the movie. I'm sitting there like, I need to eat something. And
then you're depriving yourself, and you should have fun.
I need something.
You know, sometimes. But I think MCT bars are my favorite, you know, bar out there. They're one of the few bars that I can actually tolerate because they're made with stevia and they're made with natural ingredients. And I also love Peely nuts. They're the most delicious nuts. So shout out to those guys. What are the three most pivotal things that you've learned from doing this carnivore diet?
I think the number one thing that I've learned is I used to tell everybody I think the healthiest diet's a vegan diet. And now I completely disagree with my own saying. And the reason I disagree with it is because if you look at the nutrient value of beef, it's much higher than any vegetable. So you can stack up, you know, 10 vegetables against each other, next to each other, and put them up against beef, and beef will still probably have more nutrients than, you know, a lot of these vegetables even combined. So when I'm looking, my body's looking for nutrients, it's hunting for food, you know, all the time. It's always scanning and searching for food. If I front load my body with those nutrients that it needs and it wants early on, it's not going to be begging for them later, which means I'm not hungry. And so not being hungry is a huge way to win the war on carbs, first of all, and to win the war on obesity, too, is like to not be hungry, to fill yourself up. And if you fill yourself up with certain foods, you're not able to even store fat because your body's not thinking about that. Like when you eat a piece of steak, your body's not like, where do I put all this fat? Yeah. Where do I deposit this? But if you eat that steak and you have bread with that steak or something, you eat mashed potatoes with that steak, your insulin levels come way up, and then your insulin levels say, hey, I want to put this fat into these fat cells. Yeah. And we're like, no, don't do that. But that's what basically happens. So by, sort of just like even if you eat a piece of steak, your insulin levels are gonna raise, but they're gonna normalize after a little bit because there's no carbohydrate to keep them elevated. And that's something so the number one thing I learned is like keep meat, for me personally, and this is just me, for me, keep meat at the center of your program. The other thing that I've been trying to do a little bit more religiously, and because I don't count calories and I don't count carbs and I don't count anything because I'm lazy. Actually, I just don't think that that's the way to go through life. Counting and measuring everything. I don't think it's part of how you should be living your life. But the other thing is, because I don't weigh and measure everything, I want to try to hit my protein goal. We found more recently, and people out there that are watching this, they should do this. Go to ketogains.com. Go to the Keto Gains macro calculator, and you put in your information, your height and weight, and whatever else information you ask for, and it'll basically spit out to you how many grams of protein you need to eat. That's the most important number. It doesn't matter how many calories. It doesn't matter if you're exercising or not. It doesn't matter any of that. It matters like, what is your protein goal for the day? So say, somebody like yourself, your protein goal, it might only be like 120 grams of protein or something like that, right? So you're like, well, then you got to plan out your day. How do I get to 120 grams of protein? Don't worry about what else you eat. Just, the foods that are good for you. It's like steak, it's salmon, it's avocados, it's coconuts. These like high fat, high, or moderate protein foods are going to be the foods that we want to stick to, right? So like you use the fat as like a lever, right? So you just hit your protein number, and if you need more fat, have another bulletproof coffee. Yeah. You know what I mean? But don't have another bulletproof coffee if you don't know that you don't need it. And that's the problem is like people get up in the morning, they'll have like 3 cups of bulletproof coffee by like 3 p.m. and they'll be like, yeah, I'm barely eating.
Yeah, I'm fasting.
Yeah, or like I'm, like I was doing it. I was guilty of it where I would drink 2 bulletproof coffees and by 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I'd be like, okay, now I'm about ready to eat. It would be really late in the day. And then when I would, when I would eat, I wouldn't be able to stop eating because I would like wait too long in the day.
Yeah.
And then it was hard for me to shut it down. And, I just think like this whole everything in moderation thing really seems, to work. Even like if you're in keto and you're doing ketosis, don't eat too much fat. It'll come back to haunt you. Don't eat too many sugar alcohols. It'll come back to haunt you. Don't eat too much fruit. It'll come back to haunt you. Every little thing that we do. Yeah. And then the other thing I've learned on this, the third thing that I've learned is to make sure that you're getting all your other stuff in too. So it's when we're doing a diet, we tend to we're focusing on the macros, we're focusing on that. And then when I got my blood work back, I was still like a little bit deficient in vitamin D. Stan Efferding, who I work with, if anybody wants to like follow him, he's got a ton of great nutritional advice. StanEfferding.com. He's got his own website now. You can also check out Rhino Rants on YouTube. But Stan was the one that was really pushing me to go more towards my protein goal. And he was actually also the one that incorporated fruit into my diet. He's also the one that has helped me with a lot of this stuff and a lot of the blood work stuff. But when he saw some of the blood work, he's like, I want to improve these markers. And by improving those markers, like I need to take some vitamin D. I need to get outside a little bit more to get more vitamin D. I need to, there was just some things that were a little bit deficient. Yeah. Nothing was really bad because, like I said, I've been eating beef. So I was pretty solid on most of my nutrition. But just making sure you get everything else in. I think getting your blood work done is really important. I don't think I'll go, I think I'll get my blood work done from now on at least once every 6 months, probably more like once every 2 or 3 months now. And I know Stan does it every month. And if you can afford it, there's nothing that I think that's the best way to go is just constantly getting your blood work done, constantly refining what you're doing. This is all highly individualized. We know that there are some rules that we can all follow that will work for most of us. But individualizing it is where it's at. And the only way to really do that is start testing your blood and knowing what's in there.
I agree. Otherwise, you're just shooting in the dark and you're just guessing. And even if you get food sensitivity testing, because obviously it's not for everybody. You got to listen to your gut, and some foods you're not going to be able to tolerate, and they'll make you sick or they'll make your life better. So you just gotta test things out for yourself and try things and be open.
There's something interesting about the carnivore diet, where it breeds this savagery. It actually breeds this like animal instinct into you, sort of. It's really strange, but when you're eating just red meat, for the most part, you feel really strong. And for me personally, it makes me feel like I don't know why. Like I said, it makes me feel like an animal in the gym, and it makes there's something about it as a man. I don't know as a woman how it would feel to do it. I don't know if it feel different. We might have to ask Amber O'Hearn, who's been at this for quite some time. She's another person to follow. She's a keto carnivore. That's her Instagram page. She's a woman that's been doing this for 10 plus years. But as a man, I just know it makes me feel more manly. It makes me feel badass. Like it makes me feel like a savage. And when I go in to lift, I have that attitude too. I don't know what it is about this diet. It sounds weird. It sounds like I'm a werewolf or something, but it's kind of how I feel when I train. I feel really good now. And I didn't used to feel strong. Like for the longest time after I went to rehab and everything, I always felt like I was recovering. I was some little wuss that was just like this injured little bird that was trying to recover all the time. Recover. Yeah. Now I feel like I'm training. Like, let's go. Let's train. Let's lift some weights. Let's do some damage. Let's punch some holes in the wall.
It works for you, and obviously your body's getting the nutrients that it needs from this kind of diet, because you look great, your energy's through the roof, you're performing better at the gym, your health markers are all great. Like it seems to really be vibing with you at this point in your life, and I think that's really cool. I personally have incorporated this. Some meals I will just eat meat now. Like I will just have a steak and I won't have anything else with it. And
Nine times out of 10, those are the times that you come over here.
Yeah.
And all I have is steak.
Well, right. But it's like, that's actually really fun for me to do that, because normally I have to have, I have the vegetables with it. I cook them now. And then might have, some fruit or whatever afterwards. But it's kind of nice to it's kind of freeing and liberating just to have one thing, just have the steak or just have the chicken. And I feel great. And I started to implement that because I had SIBO. So I didn't want to eat as many vegetables. So for me, it was sort of like therapeutic when I was trying to recover from SIBO.
The nice thing about this diet is it's really easy to spread the word. Mm-hmm. So if you go into a restaurant and you order and you're like, I want a steak. And they'll say, okay, cool. And like medium rare. And they'll say, what do you want on the side? Like nothing. And I'll be like, well, what about this? Can I get you that? We can get you a salad. No, I don't want anything on the side. Well, but we have mashed potatoes. No, I don't want anything on the side. Are you sure you don't want to substitute in, no, look, I don't want anything. And they're like, what are you doing? Like eventually the waiter or waitress breaks down.
They're so confused.
And especially like if you're in a group and everybody's ordering, you're the one guy and you order a steak on a plate. Yeah. And they just kind of look at you. Yeah. Or you order a steak and a burger and they're kind of like, what? And wait, no bun, no whatever. Right. And so they always ask you. So that's your opportunity to pounce. Yeah. That's where you get to talk about.
Educate. Yeah.
Yeah, you get to educate. And when I say pounce, it's not like we're trying to talk everybody into doing what we're doing. Yeah. But what we are trying to do is influence everybody with good health. And if you can tell if somebody that's serving you or helping you wants that information or needs that information, and you're able to share it if they ask. If they don't ask, don't share it. But when somebody says, what are you doing? Why are you eating just steak on a plate? That's your opportunity to explain to them all the great health benefits that they could get also from doing this diet. Mm-hmm. It's a way to pay it forward.
I agree.
Because you're not bothering people by telling them how to eat. Mm-hmm. You're really helping them. I mean, there's been 1,000 diet books, 1,000 diet books and cookbooks written in the past 10 years, mm-hmm. right? If there was a diet that worked for everybody, they'd stop making them. And so maybe a lot of the information in the books does work, but obviously people haven't learned or figured out how to apply it. Yeah. And I think it'll continue. It'll continue all the way up until the point, it'll probably continue forever, but the only way that it will change is if we really change what we're eating and we really change the ingredients in our food. Yeah. I really feel that there's a way to overhaul the entire food industry to make it much healthier. However, that would cost a lot of money, and I don't think people are interested in that.
Yeah. Well, I think that you're on your way. You're making a big dent, and you're making some noise, and people are asking. People want to know. People are really interested in this. So kudos to you.
The only thing you can really do in these situations is lead by example. Mm-hmm. Is just do it and show people. If you want to prove that eating meat is good for you, then do it. If you want to prove that eating meat is bad for you, then do it. You have to go that route to show people if it's going to be good or bad for you. And then at that point, it's still anecdotal evidence. Mm-hmm. It's still what's called an N=1. It's like your own experiment on you, and you don't know if that's going to work for the next guy.
Just because it works for you doesn't mean it's going to work for the guy next.
And also remember this: anybody giving you dietary advice, anybody in the world giving you dietary advice, they might be telling you to eat sugar. They have good intentions. So just because we don't agree maybe with a vegan, that vegan has really good intentions. That vegan, in their mind, in their brain, they can heal you of the same diseases that we think we can heal other people of with our ketogenic diet or our carnivore diet, right? So the intentions are good, but everything doesn't work for everybody. And so that's why if you're going to do a vegan diet to cure your diabetes and it doesn't work, well, maybe you should try a keto diet and vice versa, right? And I think that's something that we should all look at. Mm-hmm. We shouldn't be planting a flag saying our diet's the best. We should be planting a flag saying our diet's a tool that can do this for people. Right. And then, if the vegans are next door and they plant their flag and say our diet is a tool that people can use to help them with these problems. If your issue is ethical, then of course you're going to go to the vegan side. I personally don't have an ethical issue with it, and nobody's going to talk me into that. So therefore, nobody's going to change my mind on eating meat. The only thing that would change my mind on eating meat would be scientific studies that say that it's not healthy.
Yeah, you have to figure out what works for you and what agrees with your gut and with your morals or whatever it is. And I think that's going to change throughout your life, because I know the way that I've eaten has changed throughout my life, where, I used to do an Atkins diet for years, and then I decided to do a ketogenic diet, and then I decided to. It's fun to experiment. I love experimenting on myself, and being able to share those results with other people. I love doing that.
Sure, and it's fun to be able to experience other diets and the cultures of other diets and what other people are doing too. So for me, I'm not one of those people that likes to argue with people about nutrition or get involved, in the sort of back and forth, fighting. Is soy going to kill you or is it not going to kill you?
Yeah.
I just think everything that's, natural, made from the earth, from God, that's, already in the food supply probably isn't going to kill you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the things that are natural, that they're not going to kill you. There are obviously some plants that are poisonous. There's animals that are venomous, that are poisonous.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of stuff that can kill you on either side. So, I don't think planting your flag is a good idea. I think it's good to just be open-minded.
Yep.
A lot of people ask me on Instagram, they ask me a lot of questions about the diet and about training, about Kratom, about everything else. So if they want to hit me up, they can find me at Big Strong Fast. I will try to get back to you if you send me a message. I can't always get back to all of them, but I will try. And if you try on one spot and I don't get back to you, try somewhere else. Tweet me, or whatever. So, you guys can find me. I try to make myself available to answer questions when I can, and I hope this helped.
All right, Chris, thank you for sharing your version of the carnivore diet with us. I know I learned a lot today. I hope you guys did too. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Thank you for tuning in.
See you guys soon.